Joining us now, Ambassador Norm Eisen, co-founder and board member of Democracy Defenders in Action, and Christy Greenberg, MSNBC legal analyst and former SDNY Criminal Division deputy chief. She is the host of Courtside with Christy Greenberg on YouTube.
Thank you both for being here. Christy, I'm going to start with you. And just to remind our viewers, this was from the Wall Street Journal. That's how we know about this birthday book in the first place. And this is what the Wall Street Journal said on July 17th. The letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal, is bawdy, like others in the album. It contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. I will go on to note, Christy, that there was an imagined conversation between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly, that also accompanied this picture. This is the thing that the Oversight Committee is finally going to get their hands on, in addition to other documents on Monday. If you were one of the lawyers on the Oversight Committee that had the opportunity to review these documents, what would you be looking for?
Well, as you go through the book, if it is, in fact, letter upon letter upon letter of these bawdy kind of exchanges with Jeffrey Epstein from all of his close friends, then one thing it quite clearly does is prove that Ghislaine Maxwell lied in her interview with Todd Blanche, because she said in the interview that she was involved in soliciting letters for this book. And she also said she had no idea that anyone was doing anything inappropriate with any girl or woman of any age. I mean, if you put together the book and everybody's in on the joke that this guy likes young girls, I mean, of course you knew. I mean, this is just one more piece of evidence that shows that everything she was saying about having no idea anything was shady is just a complete lie. And so then the question is, if she is a liar, which we all know her to be, she was charged with perjury in connection with her case, and now she has lied to the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, where is the accountability for Ghislaine Maxwell? Why is she in a country club prison? Why is she not being charged with a crime? Immunity in that interview does not protect her from the crime of making false statements to a federal officer. So again, I would look at that book and I would say, what can we do with this in terms of going back to Maxwell and seeing if you can actually press her like any prosecutor would, press her for real answers. And if you can't, charge her with a crime. Of course, that is not going to happen because Todd Blanche is not acting as a prosecutor. He is acting as Donald Trump's defense attorney. But this would just be, for me, one additional piece of evidence that proves that.
It's interesting, Norm, how tenacity and the ability to sort of go at these things really is coming into focus. We were talking earlier this week about how, you know, the storylines have sort of converged. The cases that started earlier in the year are now really beginning to settle in, and courts are starting to rule, and they're ruling against Donald Trump. And a lot of things that's concerned people is becoming more clarified. The Atlantic noted that the anti-Trump strategy that's actually working, talked about what you're doing and wrote about the effort you and others are launching to sue the administration, the Justice Department, to force it to release documents tied to Epstein, noting the Trump-Epstein story is the story of the Trump administration, corruption benefiting his rich and powerful cronies at the expense of vulnerable people. You explained it that way. That's the nub of this. And it's now coming home to roost, if you will, in many respects, just like all these other cases that touched on, you know, whether or not he could put troops in L.A. or whether or not he could deport this person or that person. This storyline has evolved as well.
Yeah, this is one, as I explained to The Atlantic, that has really broken through. And it's not just because it's salacious. What I think the American people are getting is a theme of the Trump administration. Too close to the rich and powerful, and as a result, who gets hurt? The most vulnerable people in our society. And to have Donald Trump criticizing the effort to uncover. We've done 11 FOIAs. We're in court litigating. We're keeping the pressure on. One of the lawyers who got the recovery for these victims of Epstein has joined us to push for the Trump-Epstein files and the fact facts. How did Ghislaine Maxwell get moved from a prison where she deserved for her involvement in these terrible crimes against young women to a country club prison? We're going to get that information out there, and people care about it because they get the sense Donald Trump, we want to, why is he not turning over the Trump-Epstein files? Why?
There's got to be a reason.
What is the reason?
There's got to be a reason.
Norm Eisen, I feel like there's a story behind the beard, and I look forward to hearing it. If you were waiting until there's a response to those FOIA requests in order to shave it. But I think you bring up something interesting, which is this is happening along several tracks, right? The effort towards accountability. There are efforts like yours, the FOIA requests, the lawsuits. There's the effort that we're seeing from the House Oversight Committee. There's also the effort that we're seeing, Christy, from in terms of this discharge petition and trying to get enough Republicans on board. They need 2 more Republicans on board. Let's just play that out, okay? Let's say this actually passes through the House, passes through the Senate, and DOJ has to deliver these documents. What happens then?
They won't deliver the documents, right? They take it to court.
Okay.
They will absolutely go to court, and they will stonewall. We've seen this movie before, right? They will call any different privilege that they have to, executive privilege, deliberative privilege, whatever they can throw at this, the kitchen sink, they will, to not turn over those documents. Because, again, they are trying everything they can to make you look away from this and distract you. Oh, go get the grand jury transcripts, which meanwhile are protected by secrecy rules, but also a very small part of the files. The judge said, go release the files. Nothing's stopping you from releasing everything else. They're calling people to testify in the committee that don't really know anything about this. It's all a distraction. And then they are releasing documents that are already public and telling you, okay, we complied, you have everything now, which of course isn't true.
Do they really think we're that stupid?
That's the question. Do they think that the American people are that stupid? Is he so surrounded by sycophants at those cabinet meetings telling him that he is so great in everything that he does that he thinks the American people feel the same way? And I think he's going to find that they don't, that people have questions and they want answers.
That is the key thing. Does he think the American people are stupid? Remember when Donald Trump said he could literally stand on Fifth Avenue, shoot someone, and he wouldn't be met with any consequences? For the bulk of his political career, that euphemism, and I don't like to use examples about shootings because guns are the #1 killer of our kids in this country. We should probably do something about that. But he has been met with very few consequences. The man is literally in photo after photo with Jeffrey Epstein, and people were still like, he's going to get us the truth. Like, he has been inoculated, but for some reason, well, many reasons that we've laid out here, this is a story that is breaking through. I think this is about the survivors, but I also think this is about transparency in our government writ large. Because if they will lie and cover up this, the question I have is what else could they be lying and covering up, Norm? So this is really important on a number of fronts.